The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, I'd like to welcome everybody back to a KevCAM night class tonight. Tonight have Steve Walsh helping out with any questions or concerns that come along the way. Steve, you with us?
I am. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for attending.
And have Greg Payton as well to make sure I'm not missing anything for you guys and help answer questions as well. Greg, you with us?
Yep, sure am. Good evening, everybody.
And I do see a couple new names in here, so I'll just go through the quick housekeeping stuff through GoToWebinar. Everyone is on mute right now, just to eliminate any background noise, or beer bottles being opened, or beer cans being hot. No.
Is that the instructor?
Yeah. But no, just do that to eliminate any background noise. But if you guys do have questions, definitely type those into the questions panel of the GoToWebinar, and we'll get those addressed for you right away. Now, every night class is being recorded for you guys. So if I hop out of here, and if you guys go over to the SolidCAM University channel, you should see all of our previous night classes in here, as well as the SolidCAM Live that we've been doing every day at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, as well as some additional videos in here. So there's pretty much, if you have a question about SolidCAM, there's a video for it in here. So between Greg, myself, and Mark, and Sydney, we put a lot of time into videos for helping you guys out on these. So definitely come check it out. But with that being said, what I am going to be showing you guys tonight is the new undercutting feature inside SolidCAM. Now, this is geared towards more or less a multiple undercuts and maybe like a mold or a component where you don't have to go through and select them all. So I think what I'll do is I'll actually show you an example of our HSS as well as the undercutting to show the difference. So first thing we'll do is we'll start off with the new undercutting that they've added in there. Now, this is only a constant Z. So they're, from what I understand, they're going to be adding more of these in here. So it'll be undercutting constant Z or linear as well. But so the constant Z, like we've talked about in the past, has been more geared towards anything that is like a 45-degree angle and higher. So between 45 degrees and 90 degrees, the constant Z really shines. But so what we'll do here is I'll show you what we're going to be cutting. So the new undercutting machining is a little bit of HSS and a little bit of HSM. Now, Greg and I were telling you guys about the new turbo HSR 2 weeks ago, but it is very similar to that. So you're going to see some HSS stuff in here as well as some HSM strategies. So first things first is we don't have to select a target, or we don't have to select any surfaces. What it will do is it will collectively find anything that needs to be machined with our cutter. Now, if we want to just cut only the undercuts, we can turn that checkbox on right here. So nice feature, and you can see that I have several different undercuts of what's going on here, and I will be able to do this all in one operation versus having to break this up. And I'll show you kind of a back and forth of what's going on there. So I'm just going to grab a tool. Now, this operation supports slot mills and lollipop cutters. So those are only two cutters that you guys can use. But for right now, I'll use my slot cutter, and I have a fully radiused one. So you can see it right here. Now, the shank is a little bit small, but I was just doing a quick rough drop of a QA cutter here with full radius. But levels, we don't have to worry about levels just like in HSS. We just want to make sure that our clearances are going in the correct direction. So, our part is sitting there. we want our Z clearances to be up. Okay. Constraint boundaries. Now this is where it's going to help you out quite a bit, is if we have multiple undercuts. So in HSS, we would have to select each individual surface, where now it's going to look at the entire target model based off of my boundary right here, and do our find our geometries that we want to cut. Now you guys can do if we just want to focus on one specific area, we can manually create a boundary and just do one hole. But for this one, we're going to try to knock out as much as we can with our keyway cutter here. And then passes, kind of like the HSR turbo. This is going to look just like your HSS here. And this is going to control your step downs. So let's just say we're going to go for a finish and do a 10th step down. We still have our Z top, Z bottom. If we want to go out a little bit farther past, we can put that in there as well. Cutting method, we can do zigzag or one way. Cutting directions, climb versus conventional. Levels, I'll go through that one shortly here with the machine levels by levels or regions. And then our start point and flip step over. Now inside here we have the point distribution, and this is more more geared towards the HSM. So with the point distribution, you can define a maximum length of the tool path of that segment. So you can really customize these. And if I come in here, your point distance, if you need to get a really tight tolerance in there or a larger tolerance in there. But for right now, the majority of the time you shouldn't need this, but if you're really trying to fine tune that tool path, you can come in there and change up that point distribution. Okay, link is exactly what we've always seen in HSS. So we do have linking in here. We can do a lead in, lead out. Any gaps, we can do clearance as well as links between slices. This is all pretty familiar for you guys that are working with HSS. And then as well, we can do a gouge check on here. With the undercutting, for the most part, I haven't found a need to do a gouge check yet. But if there's a specific surface that you don't want it to touch, then we can turn on our gouge check for that. Clearance data, kind of like what we've used to seeing in HSS, as well as roughing in more. Now you don't have all the options as roughing in more, but you do have the translate, rotate, stock definition, so we're not cutting any air, as well as mirror. Oh, what a breath on that one. Okay, so let's go ahead and throw some path on there. So you can see right now, we are cutting just our underside of our cuts that are going on right now. Now, what I'm going to do is, if I want to include my chamfer on the outside, and go to my constraint boundary, and I can just put an external, and I may have to change up my levels. Okay, so now we're able to attack 3 different surfaces, well actually 6 different surfaces, all with one toolpath, where before to achieve this in HSS, you would have to have 3 independent operations to get this job done. Like I said, this is more geared towards multiple undercuts on a mold or any kind of part that you guys are looking to do. So let's go ahead and see what we have here. And one thing before I get into the solid verify is I told it to do only the undercuts. So if I turn off that machine undercuts only, you'll see that I'm actually going to be machining the entire sides, as well as our hole right here, as well as our hole right here. Now, since that was done by a drill bit for these holes, as well as, you know, end melt to profile the outside. We don't need that. So that's where the machined undercuts only comes in handy for you. All right, so let's go ahead and play this.
Now, Kevin,
yeah,
what are some instances in which you'd like to leave that off?
Well, that's a good question. You tell me.
Got an answer?
Yeah, I was thinking I got an answer to that one. I'm thinking that.
Well, one that comes to mind immediately would be anytime you have surfaces that go from being a normal surface to an undercut surface, and you want to keep that clean blend line together. That way you don't have to do it as two separate operations. That'd be one. So it really depends on the geometry that people are trying to cut, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's a great point. So for those that didn't catch what Greg was saying is, you know, if we wanted a smooth blend line from this face down to this face right here, we would probably want to leave that turned off, and then that blend would just be a smooth blend as the tool path is going down and over it. So great point there, Greg. All right, so we'll go ahead and solid verify this here. Now, let me slow this down here. This one a little too fast. So what we're doing, let me go to my settings and by number of steps here. So it's starting at the top, and now it's bouncing back and forth. So obviously we want to keep that tool inside that cut instead of going bouncing back and forth. So first thing we can do is come in here, go to our passes, and we want it to be machined by region. So what I'm telling it by regions is I want it to finish all of this cone right here before it moves on to anything else. So let's go ahead and play that through here. So it's going to do the outside, do this shape over here, and then move over here. But it's maybe I want to reverse that. Maybe I want it to start at the bottom of the radius and work its way up. So you guys do have that option as well. So what we can do is flip the step over, save and calculate this again. And now when we play this through, we're starting at the bottom and working our way up. So it depends on the cutter that you're using, but this would be, you know, a better strategy. Now, if you look right here, I can see that it is not getting everything of my chamfer for my socket, or my my cap, not a cap screw, my angle that I need to achieve all that. So if I go in here, you can still see I have material in there. Well, the reason it's not getting that is my keyway cutter that I chose just isn't large enough to be able to get in there without the shank gouging into our machined material already. So if you guys do run across that, just make sure you got a tool that is large enough to fit in there, but small enough to fit through that hole as well. So now surface finish, we can tighten up our surface finish to get, you know, a really nice finish, or we can loosen it up to get a rougher finish there. And we do have the option to switch over to one way. So if your cutter can only do one way, we can do that as well. Now, what I want to do is show this exact same tool path and how we would have to do an HSS. So in HSS, I'll switch it over to parallel to curve. Actually, we'll just keep it in constant Z so we can kind of see exactly what's going on. So we can compare apples to apples here. All right, so my drive surface is going to have to be that one. Now, I cannot go through and click all these other surfaces because we're going to get a lot of bouncing around and whatnot. So I'm going to have to do these independently. Grab our tool. And like I said, you can kind of see these are looking pretty much the same as our undercutting. So our toolpath parameters still set up 10 thou, or I'm sorry, this one's set up a step over, set up at 10 thou. And tool control looks good. Now the one thing I do like in here is we can switch this over to spiral, but these are the steps that we're going to have to take. So we've just accomplished one backside chamfer on there. So now to do this to the other one, we'd have to make another copy. Go to our geometry, grab this guy here, save and calculate that one. So we can see our toolpath there, as well as make another copy. Geometry, new. And now we have all the toolpath in 3 different operations with multiple more steps in there to get what we were able to achieve with the undercutting. Like I said, this part maybe isn't the best example for it just because I only have a few undercut surfaces here, but let's take this to the extreme where you have multiple different undercuts, and this is really going to save you a lot of time. Gregory, say something?
Yeah, I was going to ask about the HSS, if you could select the multiple surfaces and still machine by region. Ooh. With the HSS constant Z.
Hop over this one. And
but to your point, Kevin, with the undercut milling, it really shines if you have surfaces that are running into other surfaces. Maybe you have some features or bosses that go into that undercut or extrude out from that undercut.
Yeah.
And you want the tool to follow that constant Z profile around all the surfaces instead of this basic surface geometry.
Yep.
Then by being able to select the target model and have it analyze every feature of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I do have a different part to kind of show this on as well. I don't have any bosses extruded out, but maybe we can throw some in there real quick. But okay, so we have all the surfaces here. We can see we're doing quite a bit of jumping around right now. But to Greg's point, let's go ahead and switch it over by regions. And that does do pretty much the exact same thing as what we're looking for there. The only factor is having to go through and select all those surfaces. So we were able to save it on this particular part where we could do it all in one operation, but we're still having to go through and select all these different surfaces to grab those, where in the undercutting, it's done all automatically for you.
And it does look like you're getting some retract moves that would probably wipe through that part with that tool. So you'd really have to go through and set up the collision control.
Yeah.
Whereas with the undercut toolpath, you get that automatic collision check.
And if we kind of bounce back and forth between toolpaths here, we can see we have quite a bit of retracts going on right here, where in the undercutting, we just have, you know, a start here, does everything, moves over to this one, does everything, and then moves over to our last chamfer right there and does everything in there. So a little bit cleaner toolpath as well. So yeah, great point. Now, Jake,
now it looks like, oh yeah, I was just about to address it, but go ahead, Kevin.
Yep. So Jake's asking if there is any roughing strategies inside of the undercut milling. Now, if we come to the roughing and more, we don't see any roughing strategies in here. But what you can do is we can come in here and let's say we would want to do a 1 thou or a 10 thou offset in there, and maybe we can do our passes at like 50 thou. So this particular operation we would do at 50 thou as a rough. Now, since I did such a large step down in there, I'm not getting hardly any tool path. Let me just try 20, and it may just be my offset too, because I know I don't have much room to play with in here. Yeah, so I'm not getting much room to play with here, but you can see we can offset that, do a larger step down or step over in this tool path, and then come back with a finishing tool path, putting this back at 0, and then putting our passes back at the 10 thou that we originally had. So that's one way of kind of going about it there. But to let you guys know, HSS and the new undercut machining are the only tool paths in the program that you guys can use to do undercutting. So just kind of keep that in your pocket. So if you guys do run across that, you're going to have to either use the HSS or the 3-axis undercut. Now I'm going to put Steve under the hot seat now. Steve, do we know what is, do the customers need HSS to utilize this, or just HSM, or both?
I was actually going to ask that question, Kevin. I'm hoping you know the answer.
I don't right now. I would assume you're going to need both HSS and HSR, but since it is more geared towards the HSM, I think you guys would just need HSM to be able to achieve this cut. But we can look more into that for everyone too.
Perfect.
Okay. Any questions on this particular part? I'm going to hop over to another one here. All right. So I'll close this out here.
Suffice to say, though, Kevin, if somebody has 3D Pro, they'd have this ability built in.
Yep. Yeah. Now, it was brought up when Greg and I and Tim were going over the new Turbo HSR, and for that functionality to work, all you would need is the HSM module. So even though the Turbo HSR does incorporate a lot of the HSS features, you would just need the HSM module to get that in there for you. Okay, so now let's see how fast Kevin can work on the fly here. And we'll do edit part. And
now, is it going to speed you up or slow you down if Steve hums Jeopardy final answer music?
There you go.
Great. And go to features, extrude, direction 2. Oh, shut up.
I'm blaming it on Peyton. You brought it up.
All right, so I think that should work. Now, if we come in here and throw like a fillet around here, something like that, and let's do a 0.2. Nope, too big. 0.15, still too big. Okay, so this is kind of like what Greg was talking about. If we had a extruded feature coming out, but you still want to maintain that constant that constant Z tool path with the ability to still do your undercutting. So I will do a synchronize here, and we'll go ahead and add a undercut constant Z. So we got our target, and on this particular one, we probably want to machine everything, not just the undercuts, but maybe we'll kind of take a look at it, what will look like with it or without it. And I grab this guy here. All right, levels can be the same. Constraint boundaries, I'll just set to external. Passes, yeah, we can leave it at 50 thou. And let's just see what we have. We'll do save and calculate here. Okay, let's get rid of that tool preview. So now, one second here. Looks like my target didn't get updated. So now we can see that it is automatically going out for our bosses that are extruded out. So now if we want, let's just go ahead and see what this looks like. That's right. Need to update my stock here. We'll define. And let's just do cylinder. Boundary. All right, there we go. Now let's go ahead and solid verify this. And let's play this up a little bit faster here. And so this is really where it's going to shine as well, is keeping that constant Z tool path for anything that is extruding out or you know, a specific shape coming out in there for you guys. Yeah, let's speed this up a little bit here. General. What do I have my accuracy set to? 4/10 might be a little small.
Really, Kev, the thought process is saving you setups, right?
Yep.
This undercutting, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it's saving you, you know, operations too. So putting together your program where, you know, typically this one would have to be attacked by multiple different operations, where now we can achieve this all in one operation.
Gotcha.
Now, once this gets done playing through here,
Now the real question is if you were to make one of those, would Steve put it on his fridge?
True too. Is it Pick on Steve night or something?
well, if everybody remembers, where was Steve last week?
Had to bring it up, didn't you? No, I guess the other thing I'm thinking too, Kevin, is it would save you, I mean, 5-axis simultaneous is nice, but you could get a lot of work done, you know, with just 3-axis software and some of these strategies versus having to go to a full 4 or 5, right?
Yep. Correct.
Cool.
Now, in the case, what we can do here is maybe I didn't want it to go down to this flat area right here. Maybe that was already finished from a previous operation. So the nice thing with this combination between HSS and HSM is we can go to our gouge check. I can turn this on, and I will tell it not to touch that surface right there and maybe the top, because those are already up to size. So now when I do a save and calculate here, let me do now you can see that we're not touching that bottom pinhole or whatever we're looking for right there. So real powerful stuff that's going on in there for everyone, but it is going to be per part kind of operation. So it's if you guys do run across where you do have questions on where this could be applied, or have a part where you think this could be applied, definitely give us a call on the support line and we can help you out with that as well. So, and then I did want to show you, so right now we're cutting everything in here. So if I go ahead and let's get a side view, and let's just tell it I want to do machine undercuts only. So maybe I came in there with a ball end mill and I did the top half and I got down as far as I could, but obviously I couldn't do any undercutting because I'm using a ball end mill. So now it looks and sees that anything that has an undercut, it will automatically cut for you as well. So nice feature there. And like kind of go back to Jake's point, if we want to do some roughing strategies, we could come in here, offset it, and make just a couple of copies. So maybe on this particular one, we want to do, you know, a 20 thou off. Let's turn off this as well. So there's one operation. We got 20 thou offset. We can make a copy. Switch this over to a 10 thou. So we got a rough, semi-finished, and then, oops, I just clicked the wrong button. We can make a copy and then switch this over to a 0 offset with a 0 and passes with a finer step over or step down. And now we have our finishing pass in there. So nice feature. Now, one thing I did see is you can see like right here, we're kind of cutting air, so it's kind of going up to the retract. So to eliminate that, the nice thing with this undercutting, utilizing the HSS, is we can go to our link and we could do links between slices, and we could do follow surface. And that should keep our tool down, skipping over those gaps right there. So if I get this panned over, we can see that we're skipping over each one of those right there, as well as we could do for follow surface on this one. So you can see our lines skipping through that are going on right there. So kind of filling in those blanks. So those runtimes seem excessive. Well, 646 hours. I mean, we're going for job security. I don't know what I have set up for. Yeah, I got some pretty slow feed rates going on there. So
Nice.
But any questions, guys? That's pretty much everything that there is to know about the new undercutting strategy. I don't see anything coming in yet, but next week we'll be going, I think it's going to be our last and final what's new of 2020. There's just some general information that I would like to include for everyone in there. You know, that wouldn't take an entire half-hour night class. So I'll kind of combine all those in there, just some small little features that have been added in there for your guys' requests. And so yeah, we'll be covering that next week. But any questions, come along, shoot me an email. Everyone should have my email. If you don't, email me and I'll send you my email. No, let me just
Yeah, no questions. Quiet group, Kev. You must have covered it well.
Well,
or
yeah,
you thoroughly confused them, one of the two.
I think I wore them out in the SolidCAM live today. Jake seems to get a little quieter in the night class versus the SolidCAM live, so he must be getting tired over on the East Coast.
Nice.
But all right, well, with that being said, I just want to thank everyone for joining tonight's night class. Hopefully you got something out of it, learn more about the new 3-axis undercutting module that's in there. But like I said, next week we'll be covering just a bunch of miscellaneous stuff and general information that has been added to 2020 for you. And then we should be done and over with 2020, and we'll get back to programming some parts, kind of covering the generals and basics of SolidCAM too. So, all right, everyone, have a great rest of your night. And if I don't talk to you in the meantime, we'll talk to you guys next week.
Sounds good, Kev. Thank you.
All right, thanks,
Good
everyone.
evening.
All right, bye.